What's going on, people? Welcome back to We Are Tottenham TV and welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinions. You can see as we're mixing and matching in the studio, me and John on for this one. And let's get straight into the first one. It is even the Kane of last season was holding us back. With him in the side, teams are comfortable to play out from the back, which means we get pinned back. We would be far more dangerous in the side with quick pressing striker.
He's bang on. Dombele, you the man. Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's the problem. He's not aggressive enough off the ball. He's not fast enough off the ball. And when he plays and he just trots around up front, it means that they can bring the ball out of defence a lot more easily. So I can definitely see that. Even yes, he had a good first half of last season, but you could see him really fade the second half of last season. He's still always going to be, he was still good numbers wise, but there's something really lacking in Harry Kane's athleticism and his ability to, his work rate off the ball, which I think actually has an osmosis effect on the other players around him, and it actually means that we lose a lot of pressure in that, when we're, off the ball on the opposition. What do you think?
I mean, I do kind of agree with what you're saying. I mean, it does kind of diminish our press when he's playing. But I think that since Conte's come in, you've started to see it a bit more with Harry Kane.
I haven't. I know we spoke about that, didn't we? We could talk about Harry Kane's motivation, I guess. But, I mean, it's very early on with Conte,
to say he was holding us back last season, the guy got the most goals in the league and the most assists in the league. How can that be holding us back?
Well, it's an unpopular opinion.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, numbers-wise, he was great last season. I would say a lot of that was down to
But last season,
a lot of that was down to
best,
Sonny. And Sonny's stats were because of Kane as well.
The best version you've seen of Harry Kane last season.
No, not in my opinion.
Because he was dropping back a lot last season.
I'll tell you what, it's the most well-rounded performance we've seen from Harry Kane. I would argue that. But in terms of explosiveness, athleticism, pace, power, his ability to wriggle past players, that's kind of all now gone out of his game. So now he's adapting his game and he's becoming, well, he was last season, becoming more of a team player, dropping back, pulling more strings, rather than just being that front man.
So what about Kane maybe in a number 10 role or something like that, or an advanced CM?
I mean, he's slowing down so much that I think he's probably going to have to do that, And also, who knows what's going to happen in the rest of this season, but I think that it's not just form and it's not just his motivation. I do think that his game is suffering, and that could be because of all the injuries that he's had. But for me, I can see every season there's just a little bit more comes out of his game, or shall I say, is lacking from his game.
But no player is ever the same from the start of his career to the end of his career.
Of course.
Great players, what they do is they find solutions, don't they?
But he's only. I kind of said this when I came on the channel. I can see that he's not at the peak of his power. And I think the argument was he's only 27, he's only, whatever. But I can see that he's sort of coming on the tail end of his bell curve already, whereas I think a lot of other players, let's say your Ryan Giggs or, other players, their bell curve might come a little bit later. Some even come even earlier, where they have a very explosive start to their career, and then they tail off quite quickly, like a kind of a Robbie Keane, for instance, or an Aaron Lennon. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of fans thought that Harry Kane's bell curve was going to last a little bit longer, maybe in his mid-30s start tailing off. But I'm starting to see it kind of now. So he's having to adapt his style now.
Do you think that that he'll come out of the team at all under Conte? Because if that's true, and if he's not performing under Conte, he will come out of the team.
I hope he does. I hope Conte doesn't see any player bigger than the club or the team, because I just think that was Nuno's downfall. I think he just religiously played Kane even though he wasn't performing. And I think that doesn't set a good benchmark for the rest of the players. It's not good for morale, is it, when you have that? Even Harry Kane's now just come out today. I was reading that he was saying it's really affected me, Euros and everything else. So if he knows that, if Nuno knows that, Harry Kane knows that, why is he playing every game? That can't be good for the whole dressing room, can it? So I hope Conte does make decisions based upon the performance and on the team, and doesn't put anyone on a pedestal.
He will.
Do you think he will?
He will. 100% he will.
Well, that's good.
But on the flip side of that, he will get the best out of Harry Kane again. I genuinely believe that.
What makes you think that?
Because I think he gets the best out of his strikers every time. He likes that big, strong, physical striker up there. He did it with Lukaku at Inter Milan, took him on leaps and bounds. He did it at Diego Costa with Chelsea. I mean, he does it time and time again, Antonio Conte, and I think Harry Kane will be no different. And he said in the summer, when he was a pundit on the Euros, he was talking about Harry Kane as his dream striker.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then he's obviously going to play him to begin with anyway, but whether or not he drops him, I still don't think... the only manager I can see dropping Kane is someone like Fergie. He was like the ultimate. It's like no one is ahead of this team. You know,
if Kane doesn't perform for Conte, he will drop him. I have no two ways about that.
How many games in? If he keeps let's say puts in the performances that he's been putting in so far this season. Let's say these like kind of 5 out of 10 performances. How many of those would it take for him to come out under Conte?
I don't know. We'll have to see, because Conte also needs to. It's not just the Harry Kane he needs to assess. He needs to assess a whole.
Yeah, no, of
squad,
course,
doesn't he?
But as we're on that subject, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's not going to happen because he's going to perform. So that's the.
We all want to see it. We want to see it.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on.
A lot on that one, didn't we?
Yeah.
Marios
says it's Kane's fault that we didn't play well under Nuno. But is this the anti-Harry Kane show today?
I like this one a lot.
I just love anything that's anti-Harry Kane.
No, because he gets too much protection. He's shielded from criticism all the time.
And you give Lucas too much protection.
No, I don't. One is meant to be the perfect striker, a world-class footballer. The other one couldn't even get in the team under Jose until January. He was completely frozen out from the team. He came into the side, was the best player at the end of last season, best player in pre-season. I think he's been the best player so far this season. So for a player that's underrated and underappreciated, I think he's doing a pretty good job, Lucas. Now, as opposed to that, Kane, world-class, perfect striker, has been the worst player in the team this season. And yet, when he puts in a dog shit performance, we don't say he's a terrible player. We go, yeah, but if Moura just passed to him, and if he, I can see he's trying. It's like, dig him out, man. Dig that guy out. Tell him he's no good. Get him out the team.
Kane does get dug out, but Kane has previous. You know what I mean? He's been absolutely world class for the last 7-8 years for us. 7 or 8 years.
But why can't he be dropped? He's undroppable.
He can be dropped.
He's Don Corleone.
He can be dropped. Nuno should have dropped him.
Nuno should have.
But Conte shouldn't drop him.
That was Nuno's downfall, because we admittedly wasn't pretty at the beginning of the season, but there was a sort of a formula, and it was bringing more out of the players. But when Kane came back in, it kind of reverted back to type, and I did think it affected the fluidity of the team. I do believe that, and I think Nuno was too scared to take him out of the team.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that's unfortunately it was his undoing.
In terms of the actual opinion, it's Kane's fault that we didn't play well under Nuno. It's obviously not Kane's fault.
It's not Kane's fault.
It's obviously not Kane's fault, but Nuno could have found a solution with taking Kane out and seeing if something.
Just take him out for like 2 games, just to see if.
Yeah, that's what I kept saying under Nuno.
If there's a kind of a reinvigoration of the dynamic that we had against Man City, and if let's say it's still stale after a couple of games, then you kind of introduce him again. But just to keep him in religiously, knowing that he's like his head's not there and everything else, that is not a good effect, osmosis effect.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So in a way, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Tom Super says Conte will also struggle to succeed and win trophies at Spurs.
Do you know what I mean? I know we're all like kind of like Conte, but it's still going to be hard for him, because the whole infrastructure of the club is, let's be honest, it's not right, and we know this and as time goes by, we see it more and more, and I think more of the fan base is starting to wake up to the fact that, let's say you have a brilliant restaurant, an incredible restaurant, you have the best Michelin star chefs coming in, but you're giving crap ingredients. There's only so much.
They're given what's your
metaphor?
They're given the freezer foods from Tesco.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So there's only they might be able to squeeze something out with those, right? But then it's not sustainable. At some point it's going to break down, and I think a lot of the fan base are going to. For me, it's going to go one or two ways. I think you're going to see he might be the one that gets us over the line in like a League Cup or something like that, or if it doesn't work with Conte, then all arrows are going to be pointing at Levy, because you've had Mourinho, he was the serial winner, and the only club he never won at was Spurs. Common denominator, Levy. If Conte doesn't win anything, then I think everyone's going to start realising that the issue isn't with just the replacement of the managers, but is higher up.
Yeah.
So I think.
I mean, it's difficult to know about this tweet, isn't it? Because we don't know if the penny's actually dropped with Daniel Levy. We don't know what his thinking is. But what we do know is that Antonio Conte wins everywhere he goes. He doesn't need to spend millions and millions and hundreds of millions to do that. He gets the best out of kind of average players, which we have a lot of them at Spurs right now. But if we are going to want to win anything and win anything big, he's going to need to be backed by Daniel Levy.
He needs to be backed.
He needs to be backed by Daniel
to be
Levy.
backed.
And at the end of the day, I think Enoch and Daniel Levy now are backed into a corner, because if you burn Martin Jol, Harry Redknapp, Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Nuno, and now Conte, who else is going to work for him?
Well, if the money's right, I think you could. I think, you can still pull these managers in, but it's just whether or not they're going to be able to do it. If they're not given those ingredients, if they're not given the money and the budget that's needed for a top club to succeed in a top competition, then it's just not going to work. It's just it's a simple equation. What you get out, what you put in. If you're not putting in the right amount, you're just not going to get it out. And I know Levy's kind of working on it with a different blueprint to a lot of clubs. I understand that, but even at some point, he's got to realise that this formula is not working. One trophy in 20 years. It's one trophy in 20 years. It's just that the proof's in the pudding. So, whether or not he's going to back him or not, I don't know. And also...
But he has to, surely. He has to.
Well, we've always said this, though, haven't we? Every new manager, we think he's going to back him this time. And he never does.
I know. Well, we'll have to see how this one plays out.
See how it plays out. And if it doesn't work with Conte, I think the silver lining will be, I think then Levy's time is up.
Yeah, I think that if Conte fails at Spurs, it's only going to be one man to blame, and that will be Daniel Levy and the board and Enoch. Well, a few men to blame, the board. But I think that the fans already started turning under Nuno, and a big chance of Levy out in the stadium and what have you. I think if this one fails, I think it'll be unanimous in the fan base. Yeah.
So that, in a way, that indirectly that could be a win for Spurs in the long run.
It's a win-win situation.
That's what I mean. It's one or two ways. Win-win. Yeah.
All right. So that is the end of episode 3. That was a juicy one. A lot of John Cooper tweets in there. I like to call them. But
there's my. I sent them in the army
with all his fake accounts. No, I'm joking. But look, that is episode 3. Stay tuned for episode 4 with Sim and John. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.